when everything stops for tea.
And a very, very good morning. I'm sorry about the slight little technical hitch that we had, slightly late going ahead. But welcome to the very first Cup of Tea with Mr. G. I've never done a podcast before, so this is going to hopefully work. I'm using StreamYard, which I've been studying it, and apparently you can put comments on. So if you are watching this, if you just want to send a little comment, that would be great. So I know that there is somebody out there who's actually watching the podcast. And today I'm having a virtual cup of tea. And here's my cup of tea. Okay. PG Grants. Very nice. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome my first ever guest on a cup of tea with Mr. G. And that is my darling friend, the lovely Rose Cook-Monk. Hello, Rose.
Hello, Chrissy. I've got my tea
How
too.
Oh, what are you drinking today, Rose?
Oh, it's a proper cup of tea. Proper cup of PG.
Is it builder's tea?
Yeah,
PG tips.
Yeah, just sort of an in-between one, 2 sugars.
Oh,
no
lovely.
whiskey.
Well, I've got my PG Grants, and that's specially blended in Scotland. Rose, thank you so much for joining me. And I really just was trying to think, when was the first time that we met? And I know it is on a ship when you were lecturing. Which ship was it? Can you remember?
Yes, it was Boudica, Fred Olsen's beautiful Boudica.
Fred Olsen Boudica.
And I think it must have been about 2015 or 16 or something when we did a med cruise together.
Because you were lecturing and med cruise, and you were on board as a lecturer, and I was on as a cabaret. Tell me about your lecturing. How did you actually get into that?
It really did happen by accident. I'd made a documentary about a famous footballer that came from my hometown, Duncan Edwards, who I know that we're going to talk a little bit about in a little while. And a friend of ours who was the then agent for cruise ships said that would be a really good thing to take on board ships. So I started only ever intending to do one cruise, really. But I went along with a different cruise line to what we met on, the wonderful CMV. And it just sort of took off from there. And, you know, nearly 10 years later, I've got 100 talks that I can give. And
100?
Pardon?
100 talks?
100 talks, yeah. I love it.
I've got to ask you, which would you say are the most popular talks?
The royal ones always go down really well. Everyone loves to hear sort of the untold stories, if you like, about the royal family, or at least lesser known stories. And there's always a bit of a twist to them, which I do love. But the music ones go down as well really well. The Freddie Mercury and Glenn Miller and Judy Garland.
Such as what? Freddie, yeah. Yeah, they're brilliant stories.
Yeah, and there's always more to do as well. I always look for inspiration for new talks to give, and I'm always researching and looking for new ideas.
You're going to be doing one on Harry and Markle, are you?
No.
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 Yeah, I can quite understand, Rose, why you would be. So, Rose, obviously, you and me, we're in the same boat, or not in the same boat as it is, because cruising. If we 5 years ago, if we were sat there in the bar and said, you know what, in 5 years' time, there's not going to be any cruising and it's all going to be coming to a standstill, you would have thought I'd been eating magic mushrooms or something from the Caribbean. So it's absolutely crazy. But of course, your work as a lecturer stopped. My work as an impression stopped. So I've had to try and move into more voiceover work. What about yourself? What have you managed to do?
I've been fortunate. I've done a couple of Zoom talks, but I'm not a huge fan of technology. So sadly, last year at the end of January, my dad died, and I did his funeral service, and I've done all of my family's funerals. But somebody did say that you're really good at that, and I think you should do that perhaps for a living. So I retrained, and I became a funeral celebrant.
I've got a picture of this. This is you, isn't it?
It is.
This is your. There we are.
Yeah, that's me.
And I've got to say, Rose, I've got to say, your friend, my darling Corky, obviously she passed away in January, and you were the celebrant for her service, and you said, Chrissy, I want to do this. And it was such a moving and touching service. Everybody who went there, they couldn't believe the heart and soul that you gave to my Corky and DJ's mum and his brothers and sisters. They were just so touched by it. How do you, training to be a celebrant, but where does this compassion, where does this come from, where you can actually make it such a personal service?
I think when you've suffered grief yourself, and I was widowed at quite an early age. I was widowed at 32, and I'd got 3 small children. As with everyone else, both my parents have died now. And lots of grief, really. I've lost lots of loved ones in a relatively short space of time as well. And I think you find everybody finds ways of getting through grief, don't they? And mine has always been writing, and I love people, and for me to do Lindy's funeral will be forever an honour to do. You know, like yourself, Lindy was my friend, and I loved her, and it was my way of my gift for you, if you like, was to help you say goodbye to her. And I saw a wonderful saying the other day that remembrance is the last gift of love. And
here we go. We're having
a
little bit of an internet issue.
Sorry,
please come back. Rose, please come back. Where are you?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Rose, are you there? Oh, you're back again. It's the internet, isn't it? Sorry, my darling. You were saying, obviously, being Corky's very close friend, and when you offered to do the service, I didn't know what to expect, but everybody said it was such a beautiful service. And then you've retrained, and is it just funerals that you? Obviously, you have to take all your examinations and stuff. Is it just funerals that you do?
No, I can do weddings as well. So I'm not a registrar, so I can't. There has to be a legal ceremony first, but celebrant is celebration. So I celebrate people's lives, and that's either through a funeral or through a wedding service or a naming service, a renewal of vows, which I do as well. And I also do end of life services as well to help people who have this impending sorrow going, when they're losing a loved one in perhaps a hospice. We get together and do that. And it's sort of a non-religious last rites, if you like, that the family write for their loved ones. So it's a privilege to do.
So it could be non-religious denomination. What else would you be able to do? I
will do services for the gay communities as well, which
brilliant.
It's very important. I want to include everyone. So every faith, every belief, every sex, every gender. Love is love, isn't it?
I was looking. Yeah, this is it. And today it's about trying to share the love, and I've got a little ticker tape. Hopefully that's working. But if anybody that's watching wants to find out more about Rose, either lecturing or her work as a celebrant, then I'll put her website address at the bottom. So make a note of that. Contact Rose. I was looking at your website, Rose, and there's one thing which really struck me, and that is you can actually have a service at the Duncan Edwards Museum, because you are the founder of the Duncan Edwards Foundation. So can you talk us through how all that happened?
Well, Duncan Edwards was one of the 8 Busby babes who died in the 1958 Munich air crash. So he played for Manchester United, but Duncan actually came from my hometown of Dudley in the West Midlands. And 20 odd years ago, I made a documentary about him, and it was that documentary, as I mentioned, that got me working on the cruise ships nearly 10 years ago.
That's the man. There he is, Duncan.
During lockdown, so can you hear me, Chris? Can you hear me, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got you.
So during lockdown, as well
a few
as
little internet problems there, but I can hear you. You still there, Rose?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah.
So during lockdown, as well as training to be a celebrant, we opened a museum to Duncan in my old office, actually, my foundation office. And the foundation.
I've got a picture, Rose. Is this the picture?
That's the picture of when we opened the museum. Yes.
Wow.
And those wonderful people, the gentleman in the grey jacket is Duncan's cousin.
Put it back up.
That's
right.
Yes. So the person to the left is Duncan's cousin. That's Keith. And the other lovely fellas that I'm surrounded by are the Murphy family. And Jimmy Murphy was Matt Busby's understudy. And Matt, of course, was the famous Manchester United manager at the time of the Munich air crash. So to have those wonderful guys open my museum was a huge privilege. But football, regardless of what club you support, is a religion. And it certainly is for the Manchester United supporters. And Old Trafford is their monastery, if you like. So because I've got this museum, which I'm so proud of in Dudley, if you are a Manchester United supporter or a supporter of football, a supporter of Duncan, or a supporter of history, you can have a really unique ceremony within the walls, if you like, surrounded by Duncan and the Busby babes and all this wonderful nostalgia that we have up there. So it's very different and very unique.
So what was the catalyst then to keep Duncan's memory alive?
I got to know Duncan's mom really well because I made a documentary about him, and she was such a sweet old lady. You know, it was like going to visit your gran, and we became really quite close, me and Sarah, Duncan's mum. And I promised her that I would keep Duncan's name alive because Duncan's father had passed away, and there was only cousins and second cousins that was alive, and she was really worried that he was going to be forgotten. So I made a promise to his mum that I'd keep Duncan's name alive, and that's what I've done. And it's been in the form of a foundation where we help children who are good at sport but can't afford their kits, their training or their travelling expenses. So we help by giving grants and bursaries. Also during the lockdown, we fundraised and we collected 10,000 pieces of PPE and we distributed that to key and care workers. We help with our local food bank and we help with Operation Santa. So we collect presents for children, the elderly and the homeless during the Christmas period. So we really try and do a lot of work in our community to keep Duncan's name alive as well.
Just trying to reconnect to the internet. It's gone down.
It's still that it's live up there. Still got live.
Just trying to reconnect.
Yeah, can you hear me, Chris? Can you hear me?
It went down.
Oh, bless you.
Right. The internet went down. So back again.
Bless you.
And anybody that I'm so sorry about that. It's things we can control and things we can't control. If Larry Grayson was here, would say, well, I was cockahoo. I was
Oh, bless you. It's brilliant when it works and it's awful when it doesn't.
Hey, listen, you know, it's tickety boo. I was fascinated in your conversation, and you were saying about Duncan's mother, and you've kept the legacy of Duncan alive. You even wrote a play, and of course, this hasn't been able to be put on because of COVID. So,
yes.
How did you go about this? How many plays have you written?
I haven't written any. Well, I can't. I say I haven't written any plays. I've always got ideas in my head, and I'm always making notes. But this is the first real serious play that I've written and done something about. And I had the idea and sort of scenes going through my head for a couple of years, really. And my youngest son, Matt, said, if you don't write this down, Mum, you're going to lose the essence of what you want to say. So once I sort of sat down and made the effort to write it, I wrote it in about a day. I've added scenes since, but
Wow.
it did take me about a day. And it tells the story right from the beginning of two young people called Sarah and Gladstone who lived next door to each other and were childhood sweethearts, who got married and had this little boy called Duncan, who went on to become, without doubt, one of the world's greatest footballers. And it was due to go on stage last May, and then it was going to be September, and then it was going to be this February. But of course, with the lockdowns and things, there's not a lot that any of us can do. Just keep this dream alive, and that's the name of the play, Keeping the Dream Alive. And just know and believe that we are going to perform it, and it will be on the stage at some point as soon as we can.
Yes, things will change. Things will change.
Yes.
And you and me, we talk a lot, and the foundation. You talked to me about the work of the Duncan Edwards Foundation. I've got a little. I think there we are. That's your foundation. A wonderful post. We talk about a lot. I want to obviously try and support your foundation, and you know that Corky's charity, which me and DJ wanted to send money to the hospital ward that looked after and obviously tried to save her. Yes. And that's raised over £1,000 at the moment. So I think what I'd like to do in the future is for us to be able to do something that can raise money for both your foundation and the charity as well. And you came up with I couldn't believe it when you told me this, but your friends from Manchester United, we've got a prize which we're going to introduce now. So Rose, would you tell people what this prize is and then how we can go about having a chance to win it, or how people can enter?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. It's I have to say that Manchester United and especially the Manchester United fans have always been really supportive from day one, from when I met them all those years ago. And that I do call them my Manchester family and my Red family, and I love them dearly, and they're fabulous. And the guys at Old Trafford are really supportive too. And they've given us a wonderful prize of a VIP day at Old Trafford, where they will show you around the ground, show you the famous changing rooms, the tunnel that leads out onto that sacred pitch, the wonderful museum, which does include the Munich room as well, which tells the story of Duncan and the Babes. and it's everything. It's a meal in the Red Cafe, the full works, a VIP day up in the wonderful city of Manchester at Old Trafford. And our idea is to buy a ticket.
Is it? Have you got lunch there as well? Is it
You
lunch?
can have lunch
Is
in the
lunch
Red
included
Cafe.
as well on that?
Yes.
I-
Yeah, they're fabulous, and they will look after you so well up there.
Obviously, with COVID at the moment,
Yeah.
people are going to say, "Well, if I was to win this, I'm not going to be able to use it." Is there a time limit?
No, there's not an expiry date on it, so you can use it as soon as lockdown is over, or next year, or the year after if you have a special anniversary coming up.
And could you give it as a prize? Could you give it as a present to somebody?
Yeah, absolutely.
Could
yes,
you give it as a
because
present to
it's
somebody?
nameless as well. So if you win it and you want to gift it, it's absolutely perfect. It's a perfect prize for somebody.
Right. How are we gonna do this then? Is it ticket price? Is because it's all going to charity. 100% of this is going to go to charity.
Yes.
There's no money coming off. It's going to be how much a ticket?
£10 a ticket.
£10 a ticket.
Yeah.
Okay. And people can pay through. You have a PayPal account for the foundation. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yes. So you just.
I'll post I'll get the details from you. Post that.
Yeah. So you just put your name in the comments that you'd like to buy a ticket, pay it into the PayPal, and then I think you're going to come up and have a socially distanced live cup of tea with Mr. G, aren't you?
Yes. Yes, I'm going to do a cup of tea with Mr. G live from your museum.
Yep.
Before I actually pull the or find the winner, would you give a virtual tour of the museum? Absolutely,
I'd love to. I've done it as a living storybook, if you like, to get the story out to children. And the message that I want to give out is that Duncan was just this ordinary young lad from a working class background that believed that he could, and he did. And it starts off in a 1930s living room, 1940s bedroom, a 1950s classroom, right up through his career until, of course, that tragic air crash in 1958. So to give you a tour would be fabulous. I'd love that.
And your foundation, you work with the community, and because what I want to do is £10 a ticket. We'll pay it into the foundation, and then we'll split that 50-50, and then 50% will go to the hospital charity, 50% to your foundation. I know what obviously the hospital charity is all about. Where does your money in the foundation? What type of work would you do? Typically, the foundation. What do they do? Is it sport related or not? Or
originally, the foundation was set up to help children who wanted to achieve at sport, but of course, with COVID and the lockdown, that changed considerably. We've always done as much work as we can in our community, and that's what we want to carry on doing. So if someone needs our help, we help a lot with the Women's Refuge for women that have to leave home because of domestic violence. So and I think you've experienced, Chris, some of the work that we do in our community. We've recently put out an appeal for Easter eggs, so we distribute Easter eggs to children, and we try and do as much as we can, help the homeless, help children. Can you hear me?
I lost you there because we lost the internet again. So I lost that last little sentence that you were saying. So we got as far as the women's refuse.
Yeah, children that need help, we will offer help to. We've recently put out an appeal for Easter eggs.
Do you do anything at Christmas, Rose?
Christmas is a very important time for us. We help with Dudley CVS's Operation Santa appeal, and last Christmas, just gone, COVID Christmas, was especially busy for us. We helped thousands of people over Christmas, children, the elderly and homeless. that would not have a Christmas present. It's a really important time for us.
Can I be your Santa? Can I be
We
your
would
Santa,
love it.
Rose?
We would love you to be our Santa.
Can I be your Santa?
We normally
I'll come up
do
and be...
hot meals for children over Christmas, but of course, because of lockdown regulations, we couldn't do that last year. So this year we are hoping to get children a hot meal again that they wouldn't have on Christmas Day. So for you to be our Santa, Chris, would be perfect.
Rose, there you are.
And I think
so we
I've
lost you again.
again.
So yeah, Christmas meals and everything. It's a big thing for you. I'm going to come up. Is it 2 days? Would that cover all the kids that you have to see? And
yeah, it would cover. We do 2 Christmas parties where we give children a hot meal. And,
I'm your Santa. Don't look
fabulous.
For any other Santa. I'm going to be your Santa.
Fabulous. My colleague Eileen Fielding, who runs Operation Santa, will be delighted. I know she will.
Yeah, I've done Santa before, so the look on children's and adults' faces, because children still have that wonderful belief and imagination, and it's such rewarding work. And it's when we come off, I'll get the diary out and we'll sort that out. So we've got a plan of action. We're going to put the details up on a post with the PayPal details explaining 50% of the money is going to go to your foundation, 50% is going to go to hospital. It'll all be on a post. Rose, I'm going to toast you with me cup of PG Grants.
Me too.
Ching ching.
Ching ching.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I wish you every success with your celebrant, the lecturing when it comes back, the work at the Duncan Edwards Foundation, and thank you ever so much. And I'll speak to you very soon. So I'm gonna take you off the screen now if I can do this. Bye, my darling. Bye. Well, thank you so much. First time I've done this, and of course, internet problems. I don't know how this has affected things, whether we've got a broadcast or not, but this is going to be a regular thing. And if you would like to actually come on and have a virtual cup of tea, Mr. G, then just message me through Facebook, and it'll be lovely. Everybody has a story to tell, and I would just love to be able to talk to you. And like I did with Rose, I'll give you a shout out. And when business comes back again, if you're an entertainer or musician, put your website address down there, and you never know, somebody might be looking and think, we'll have him for our party or for our next cruise, whatever. So from me, Krista G, have a wonderful day today. And I'll be putting the post up with all the details of how you can buy a ticket to win that wonderful prize that Rose was talking about. So from me, Christopher G, a very goodbye. Bye.